Hey guys, Joathan back with another MMA commentary video. Sorry about the background and environment of the video. We're doing this kind of on the fly. I was a little late to making this fight night for Gamrot versus Salkilld card, and I apologize. However, let's just get right into it. So starting off, we got Billy Ray Goff and Ty Miller. Miller is going to outreach him with a height advantage of around 4 inches and a reach advantage of around 5. Miller is the favorite, and for good reason. He has a current 1-win fight streak so far. When he was on the Gaethje Pimblett card, he got a KO, and he's 7-0 professionally overall, which is always promising to see an undefeated fighter, especially so early into their careers. Billy Ray Goff, however, only has 3 UFC fights, and he's lost his last 2. Which is not a very good look. And whether the UFC is kind of giving this to him to decide whether or not they're going to cut him, or they truly think he can bounce back with this, I don't see him lasting very long. He is a switch fighter, but I don't think that's going to matter against a very, very lethal Ty Miller, in which I think he's going to be a good welterweight prospect overall. But I see Miller completely overwhelming him in the striking. Yes, Goff will have some good exchanges. He will be able to get inside briefly. And I think his, in my opinion, slightly bigger frame is going to help. But I think it's a matter of time before Miller just probably going to knock him out. But it's kind of deciding when that's going to happen. I think Miller is going to take the first round. He's going to be very aggressive, but he's going to take the round to analyze. I think he's a smart young fighter. And I think Goff is going to be a little overwhelmed with the opportunities that Ty is going to find himself in. And I believe that Miller is going to knock him out by round 2. He's going to have him figured out after the first, and he's going to probably staunch him with a few heavy shots and then bring him to the ground for a ground and pound finish. Up next, we got Amanda Lemos versus Alexia Teixeira. I'm excited for the fight overall. Lemos is a vet in the sport, but she is aging, and she's lost 4 of her last 6 fights, with 2 of them being from Robert and Suarez. It's a downward trend overall for Amanda, and I'm a little worried. I think she still does have that very high preparation and veteran status, and she can give Alexia problems, but I don't know if Teixeira is going to be that troubled by this older Lemos who is kind of on a downward spiral. Her last great win was over Mackenzie Dern, and on top of that, she has not really been the same since losing to Zhang Weili for the championship belt in strawweight. I am overall assuming that this is probably going to be one of her last fights, if not her last. I think Alexia is dangerous. I am seeing a finish by the 3rd round, typically, and this is just a personal observation. It does seem like some of the women's MMA fights, unless they're leagues above, do tend to go into the later rounds, and I'm assuming Teixeira is going to take her into the later rounds, being the younger fighter and being a bit rangier. I see a finish in the 3rd round. She might find a sub from a dogfight, but I am assuming another ground and pound finish by round 3 for Alexia. Next up, we got Darren Elkins and Yadier Del Val. I am not the most hyped for this fight. I think Elkins is a little too old. He really should not be fighting anymore. Props to the guy for lacing up and gearing up and still going through fight camps at 42 years old. But he's not one of those vets that was the peak of their class and the peak of fighting that happened to just get older, and now he's carrying that heavy championship experience. He was not a championship level fighter, and now he's fighting a guy that is somewhat dangerous and will submit you if you get into the wrong positions, and etc., etc. I think Yadier is more likely to go into a decision if he can't submit him through the 1st round. But I think Darren still can be competitive. He's still a veteran. He still has a lot of fights. And I never want to count out an older guy. But with that being said, Yadir by decision. Unless it's quickly submitted through the first round, there is no way either one of them truly gets this kind of like overwhelming force through each other. They're not, like, Yadir is not going to just plow through him. He is going to overwhelm him, but it's going to be a consistent pace throughout the fight that will end in a decision, in my opinion. And now for our second to last fight of the card, we got Diego Ferreira versus Billy Quantarillo. I think that this is going to be a toss-up. It is kind of hard to see. These guys are kind of fighting for their job in a sort of messed up way. I never like it when we're pairing two guys who desperately are trying to stay in the UFC against each other, because it's like one of them will fail. And maybe from a empathetic fan sort of way, I don't want to see these guys fail. But with that said, Diego is older, and I don't think the age gap is absurd, but I think, honestly, as of recently, he has a less impressive loss compared to Billy, who recently lost to Cub Swanson, or semi-recently. It was almost 2 years ago at this point. And Billy might be too far out of fighting at this point, and I might be making a bad decision. But I am going with Quantarillo here. I think he may find a TKO on the ground. He may go for some subs, and it will be later rounds. I think it will be round 3. I find that older fighters also tend to go into the later rounds, whether that's better defense, more experience, or they just know how to pace it better. The fight will end up going to the third round or decision, and I find that Billy Quantarillo will probably put Diego Ferreira out. I think Ferreira, when he lost at the Noche event, he looked fine, but at the same time, you could tell he was kind of on the out, and I think that this needs to be one of his last fights as well. I'm not a big fan of people fighting past 40. I think it's just your body starting to degrade, and no matter how good of prep you have, or how good of an athlete you are, or how healthy overall you treat your body, you're going to start to break down, and at this point, you may ruin the last 20, 30, 40 years of your life. But that's more of a social commentary than actual fighting. Billy Quantarillo by round 3 TKO. And for the main event of the evening, we got Matthijs Gamrot versus Quillan Salkilld. I am very excited for this card, in this fight. This is the only thing that actually really made the card worth it, in my opinion. Salkilld is a great prospect, 26, and just keeps finding a way to win. Whether he's dominating or he might be down scorecards, etc., etc., he's knocking guys out like crazy. He beat the crap out of Dariush, and he KO'd Malarkey as well in just excellent fashion. And his parents own a bakery. But don't get me wrong, Matthijs Gamrot is not someone to be messed with. He is an absolute beast and a nightmare for a lot of fighters. He is never going to give you an uncompetitive fight. And with impressive wins like Arman and Rafael Dos Anjos and previously mentioned Ferreira, and I also believe he beat Jeremy Stevens, but who the fuck is that guy, right? Gamrot is a tough fight and the first huge test for Salkilld. However, I have mentioned to other people, and maybe not previously yet on this channel, I think Salkilld is a future contender or maybe even champion. I have a lot of beliefs about like Taporia, and if he comes back, and as long as the Justin fight didn't permanently alter him, I find him fighting Gaethje again after maybe beating Paddy Pimblett, something of the sort, and maybe defending it against Salkilld, or dropping back down to featherweight to go for a vacant belt from, let's say, Volkanovski, or maybe fighting Movsar Evloev for that belt. However, his ego may not allow it. I'm getting off track. What I am saying is that I think Quillan Salkilld is a future lightweight top contender or champion. And with that being said, Salkilld by round 2 KO. I think Gamrot is going to absolutely flow against Quillan. This is going to be a very, very difficult fight for Salkilld, especially early on, adapting to such a aggressive and just very well-rounded opponent in Gamrot, at least what I think Gamrot's going to come out looking like, is going to be hard. But once he finds his rhythm and his range, it is over. I think Quillan is extremely talented. And I find a head kick KO coming into the future, or maybe a quick, long combination against the cage in which he clinches and does some major damage or brings him down and possibly subs him. I don't see that being as likely, but very, very likely for a kick KO early, relatively early, round 2, maybe round 3. But most likely round 2. And that will wrap up today's video. Again, I do apologize for recording in my car. It was kind of short notice. I have been very busy with a lot of personal life things. However, I will make sure to start dropping a little more regularly, especially if you guys enjoy this content. And with that being said, I was not a very big fan of this card. I think Salkilld versus Gamrot was the only thing that really made it interesting, and maybe the only reason I even made a video on it at all. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, stay safe, get better, and have a great day. See you guys.